I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a trainer. My name's Duncan. I run our service department. I've been with Moix for 13 years.
Yeah.
We talked about it. I'm going to try and remember to stay loud. I've been with Moix for almost 13 years as service manager. This is our bumper pull hitch training and safety importance of proper hitch setup. Right. We've seen the guys driving down the highway like this, chains dragging right underneath the propane tanks. There's no way that's safe. Obviously, when we send somebody out, we want the camper and the truck to be as level as possible. The force weight distribution setup that we recommend and use, which is the equalizer E2, E2 trunnion, or E4, which is actually a 4-point sway control. All use force distribution to spread that weight back across the frame of the trailer and push down the front of the truck, which obviously improves stability and sway and protects the mechanical components. And it's honestly a whole lot easier to drive. When we're running stuff back and forth to Little Rock or back and forth to Hot Springs for these shows, we don't run weight distribution setups. And you can tell. You can tell. There's certain campers that I won't pull without moving up to one of the bigger trucks, just because even in my 3/4 ton, it, even from here to Little Rock, gets a little bit sketchy. You know, correctly adjusted hitch is going to minimize your trailer sway from crosswinds, road conditions, and obviously enhance stability, and it just makes it easier to pull, honestly. So you've got your tongue weight pushing down the back of your trailer or back of your truck, which is pushing everything down. The weight distribution sets act much like a wheelbarrow in spreading that back out across the front and across the frame of the trailer, using the leverage via the hitch head and spring bars, which I've got a display over here, and when we're done, I'll go over all that with you, kind of show you the whole setup. Especially with heavier trailers, it's a must for maintaining stability. A must. You've seen the death wiggle. People get going crazy, and I've seen the aftermath of it's not a great thing. And also some vehicles tow ratings, as far as they have a different tow rating with a weight distribution setup and without. So something to obviously look at in the tow rating guide for your vehicle is, does using a weight distribution setup change the tow rating on it because of the ability to disperse that weight off of the back of the truck or the tow vehicle back across the frame of the trailer and the tow vehicle. Yeah, this one gets real bad in just a second. No, not at all. I mean, they're honestly really, really lucky it didn't whip the whole thing over. But the, just a properly set up weight distribution and sway control hitch would have prevented that from happening. And there's also a driving technique that we were taught early on when I started, where, your first inclination when something like that starts is to hit the brakes, which is the wrong thing to do. You're supposed to accelerate out of it and manually engage the trailer brake, which will bring it back in line. You knew that.
That's right. Straightens the whole thing up.
Quickly. The weight distribution sway control sets that we recommend and use are friction style, using the bars that are creating the weight distribution on the spring bars, as they call them, on an L bracket that's on the frame of the trailer. It creates the friction to keep it from swaying. There's the older style chain weight distribution sets would always have that anti-sway plate, which is basically just a brake material that you clamp down, and so it slides in that braking material. It keeps just another friction to keep it from sliding back and forth, and we've got some of those that I can show you as well. But brake control with sway control with weight distribution, balances of vertical and horizontal forces for safe towing. They're noisy, right? Friction is noisy. So hearing them squeak and groan, that kind of stuff, is absolutely normal. Don't lube it. Don't lube. Well, and we'll get into that in just a second. Don't lube the friction points of the anti-sway, because without the friction, you don't have the sway control.
There we go.
So this is the weight sticker off of a GM product, and I don't know how to read these near as well as I know how to read one off of a trailer. So,
I'm an expert
of reading the truck side of it. All right, I do know that GVWR is gross vehicle weight rating. The truck has one. The camper has one.
GCWR combined.
GCWR. Okay, so that's combined. So that's the truck and whatever you're pulling. Don't know what PGAWR is.
RGAWR.
Oh, RG. Rear gross axle weight rating. So that's what the rear axle weight. Curb weight is what the truck weighs unloaded, and max payload is what you can put in or on the back of it.
When you got your conventional trailers.
And not all truck manufacturers put that on that sticker where it's easy to find. Most of them don't. Trailer, you're going to have your GVWR, your weight rating of each axle, which the two added together will be pretty close to what the difference is between the unloaded vehicle weight and the GVWR less what the each axle rating is equals about what your tongue weight is. We always go off of unloaded vehicle weight and GVWR and look at what the vehicle can tow. And we try to stay in that 80% range. Sometimes we go a little bit more, just depending on the truck, how it's set up, and where the weight of the camper is. Excuse me, a travel trailer toy hauler has a pretty, there's a pretty big swing between its unloaded vehicle weight and its GVWR because it's got room for all that stuff in the back of it. They're also front heavy straight out of the box because they've got all that space in the back of it to put gear, which is going to help set stuff up. And those are probably one of the more challenging ones for us to set a weight distribution hitch up, excuse me, because most folks don't bring their toy up here to put in their deal to let us set their hitch up. So a little communication, hey, what are y'all gonna be putting in here? What's it weigh? And we'll compensate for that a little bit when we're setting our hitch up. But, we're always gonna go, my kids are on the road, my wife's on the road. We're gonna stay as safe as possible and make sure that the vehicle that's towing what's leaving out of here is capable of towing it, and more importantly, capable of stopping it using all of this information. Like it's, on the presentation, don't base hitch size on empty trailer weight. We're always going to go with this is what it is empty. Yeah, it can tow that empty, but as soon as they put their pots, pans, blankets, a little bit of water, whatever else they travel with, dog food, that all goes up. So we need to plan on this is what they're going to be towing and go from there. We usually always go up. I mean, most of our hitches are rated for 10,000 pounds. We do have 12, 14, and even 16,000 pound anti-sway weight distribution hitch sets. Usually only go over the 10,000 pounds for the really, really long stuff. But if it's a 9,800 pound GVWR, 10,000 is kind of right there on the edge. We might go ahead and bump it up. And again, it also depends on the suspension of the truck. Ram trucks can tow anything. I mean, they got a lot of power. Some of them have cool spring rear ends, trying to make them ride better. Cool spring rear ends sag a ton, and so it takes a weight distribution set to get it quite a bit to get it back where it needs to be, where it's sitting level, just because we're having to fight the cool springs. So it's like, again, reducing stress, improving stability, and following manufacturer recommendations. It's going to keep from wearing tires on the truck and the trailer as fast. It will, and evenly, and honestly just reduces a lot of stress on the driver. Common mistakes, and this is something that we always do when we go through our setups. getting them ready for folks. We're going to level the hitch ball and coupler, level on the camper, and then make sure that when everything's done that it's sitting as close to level as possible. If we can't get it just level, because there's just not, there's only so much adjustment here and there. We're going to start a little high because again, we're working with an empty trailer, knowing that you're going to put stuff in it. Not super high, but we'll start a little high so that as you put stuff in it, it will settle down. Proper tension on the weight bars. I've seen them with too much tension, seen them with not enough, too much tension. There's an excessive amount of groaning, sometimes some popping, and it'll end up moving those saddles on the A-frame of the trailer. Not enough, it just doesn't have any sway control. And the customer will go around the block or hit the interstate headed home and hit the next exit and come back and say something just doesn't feel right, and we'll have to go back to adjusting. And then we'll just make sure that the hardware is secured and clearance, tailgate can open, because the drawbar can go up some or down some depending on the application. If it's a rise, sometimes it can interfere with the tailgate coming down, so we'll try and adjust where the tailgate can still drop all the way while achieving proper weight distribution. Torque all the bolts and hardware to their proper torque specifications, which on the big bolts I believe is 100 I know the little bolts on the saddles are 70, and the big bolts I think are 150 or 180. I can't remember. I have to ask my hitch guy. So it's a pretty good torque wrench to pop those in. But if stuff's moving around, it means that it wasn't properly torqued. Once we torque it, we have to check it about 6 months in and make sure that everything's still good in that. But yeah, unless there's an issue, once we get through setting it up, it shouldn't move. Proper bracket placement. So if they're not set up in the proper spot, it's not going to achieve the weight distribution of pushing the front wheels back down, obviously. The ones we use, the E2 round bar has to be 27 inches off the middle of the tongue. The square bar, E2 trunnion, and the E4 can both be moved a little bit back, which gives plenty of room for turning, so we don't have to worry about them popping off when you're turning. And again, back on it, torque down, even bar angles, regular inspection. That L bracket, that bar should be sitting almost virtually flat on there, right? If it's sitting like this and we're in the front edge or the back edge of the bracket, the hitch is not adjusted properly because it's going to wear, it's friction, it's going to wear, so it should be sitting, almost flat. You shouldn't. The round bar's tapered a little bit, and so sometimes depending on where that taper hits on it, you can see a little bit of an angle, but for the most part it should be sitting flat. 99% of the campers that we see on a daily basis are top mount couplers. Very rarely do we see bottom mount couplers, but they are out there. It's a totally different way of setting up the bottom mount coupler hitch, just by changing which way the brackets clamp onto the A-frame of the trailer. But if you try to set a top mount coupler setup on a bottom mount coupler, it'll never work right, and we'll fight it for hours on end. Trust me, we've done it. That's how we learned the difference. Back to talking about proper torque, because the final torque of those bolts is the most important thing, which obviously we take care of. You don't want these moving, right? That's the key point to the whole setup, or these L brackets, saddles as we like to call them.
That's the maintenance and inspection part of it.
Right.
Keep it.
But usually once we're done setting them, you don't have to mess with them. If you did, then we probably didn't do something correctly. Noise is something I kind of already touched on. It is friction, so it is going to make some noise. You can grease the coupler hitch ball. It's going to be messy every time you touch it. Arm sockets in the head with new paint. So this is on a E4 setup, which is a 4-point sway control, and especially on new paints and I can show you on the display, when they're brand new, there's a lot of noise right there. And obviously, like I already said, the bars popping, don't grease, because on those there are silencer pads that you can put on those L brackets that still are on the saddles that still allow for the friction but take some of that noise away. But again, friction is noisy. No friction equals no safety, and as they're first wearing in, they're going to be noisy. That is absolutely normal. If you're not hearing it, and it's probably not doing what it's supposed to, but it is noisy. It will get a little bit quieter as it wears in, but because it is friction, it's always going to be noisy when you're turning. If we set the hitch up and you take off down the road and you're feeling sway, a couple reasons why. We didn't put enough washers in the angle of the head when we attached it to the drawbar, so that washers push the drawbar. Your hitch head on 90% of your go to the store and buy a hitch, it's going to slide and receiver hitch ball is going to be doing just like this. Those washers are pushing that ball out like so that when we hook up to it and hook those drawbars on there, it pushes back to level, which spreads everything out. So adjusting the amount of washers in there or the height on the L brackets, too much weight for the hitch rating. We're not going to let you go with too much weight for your hitch rating. Improper loading, hitch and ball not even in install, and loose angle of the bolt sets that, once that angle's set, that keeps it from moving. Again, once we're done setting it, we'll hook it up, make sure that everything's sitting level and like it's supposed to, or as close to level as it should, based off of being able to load stuff in it. And besides just, again, checking that the torque on the bolts every once in a while, maybe a little bit of lubrication on the specified lube points. You shouldn't have to do much with it. If there is an issue, feel free to swing back through and we will adjust it. Airbags. Airbags don't increase the tow capacity of your vehicle.
I never even thought of that, so.
They don't. They help with the ride quality, and they can really wreak havoc on a weight distribution setup if it's not accounted for in the initial setup. They're not distributing any weight. They're literally just changing the height of the rear axle and improving ride quality. It does not affect how much you can tow. Obviously, there's a couple different kinds of airbags: the automatic ones that adjust as you're driving, and then the manual ones that you just hit it with the air and deals coming out of the back bumper and you hit them to inflate as needed. When we're doing with airbags with the automatic leveling system, we're going to disable it until we set it up and then let it adjust. And I think with the manual ones, we set them where the customer is going to be towing with and then set the weight distribution up. Because if they inflate them or deflate them after we've set the weight distribution up, it can change the angle of everything. If you got an extra tall frame, we've got brackets available to get the drawbars down. Sometimes we have to move propane bottles or battery boxes around to get the brackets where they need to be. Always be very cognitive of what's running down that inside A-frame, because that's where breakaway switches, charge wires coming from the 7-way, propane lines, all kinds of stuff. They'll run whatever down those A-frames, and so we got to be careful not to pinch or squeeze those, or else we go to shorting out lights or causing leaks of propane gas, which is never fun. We got this tool, and with a little bit of time and practice, it will tell you exactly how high to set everything on the vehicle. I've watched them use it, but I've never used it myself, and so I can't say a whole lot about it, but I do know that when they do use it, especially if it's something we know is going to be challenging, it leaves out of here perfect. Or if we have to redo one because it didn't quite work out the way it should have with the normal measurements that we do every day, we'll break that out and use it. And it just does all the math for us. Makes it a little bit easier. Any questions so far?
Yeah.
Thank you. A couple of things I was asked to go over. There is a easy store light, which clamps on the side of the trailer and will hold bars and hitch head when in storage.
Oh, okay.
And then over here on our display, we have one that actually locks. But it's pretty new, or it's new and fairly cool because it keeps everything together while it's being stored. So if y'all don't mind, we can go over here to our hitch setup, and I can actually put my hands on some of this stuff and maybe try explaining it a little bit better.